Hey, well, happy Wednesday to everyone. Welcome to June's monthly product focus session. I am Scott Cannett, Director of Marketing for Hirose Electric Americas, and we're excited to have you joining us today. We've got a packed 45 minutes for you with kind of two unique NPI releases today. One is I'm a little bit special from a perspective of we've done some special things to actually get it to market for our distribution partners. So I'm super excited to share that information with you on the BM54. We also have the FH75 today. That's another NPI release. And then we're going to do a quick refresh on the IX series, which the IX series is also going to partner with our new Cat 6 product that's coming out, the TM61P. I think I got that name right, but we're just about getting ready to release that product. So it's a good time to do a refresh on the IX series. So just a couple reminders today. Don't forget, we do the quiz. And there is a special reward for folks that get 5 out of 5 on the quiz. We do send out a Starbucks gift card. That is added bonus for taking the time to do the quiz. Don't forget, please do not use AI tools. We request that you don't use the AI.
God, I think somebody hit the mute all.
Brian, you're muted.
Yep. Someone muted me. There we go. I'm back.
They get tired of listening to you already.
Okay, there we go. It didn't take long for someone to mute me.
Man, I thought it was just me that gets that special treatment.
Where was I at when I got blanked out there about the AI
you were
tools?
just talking about the quiz and the AI tools, yeah.
Okay, so don't forget to take the quiz. We do give away a $10 gift card for that. Also, don't forget, please, we request don't use AI tools to record. We do provide the recording of the session, but we don't know where the servers are sitting for various AI tools and where that information goes from there. So that is a special request on that. So thanks for your consideration. Again, thank you everyone for taking some time out of your day. And I am going to pass the baton to Dave Gallagher. Dave, take it away.
Oh boy, all mine. Take over then. Great. So as you mentioned, thank you everybody, by the way, for joining us today. Really appreciate taking this time out of the middle of your week. I know you all get stuff that urgent, pressing things to do every day. And so we appreciate your time to attend these meetings that we host. The BM54F is a new product. Some of you may have already heard about this. We actually did post it on our website a little while back, but we had to deal with a little bit of negotiating to get the public launch announcement process done. And so we've gone through that process, took a little bit of time, but now we're officially telling folks about the BM54F floating product that we have available. And just a quick summary of some of the key features here. We've heard of floating products before. I mean, many of you know our FX23 series. It's been around for actually quite a few years now. Actually, I think this year marks 10 years on that product family, if I remember correctly. So floating products have certainly been out for a little while. But when you get into small size connectors, they are not as common. And the BM54F is a micro board-to-board connector that has floating in it. But the other cool thing about this is it's developed initially for our automotive customers, and they need a higher rugged and durability capabilities in the product. And this one comes with that built in, supporting up to 125 C for temperature and offering some nice durability that we'll get into in a little bit in some of our slides here. But let's jump into some of the key features on this product. Let's first talk about the floating itself, right? It's plus or minus 0.4 millimeters. And typically folks like to compare this to the DF40F. And so I got them side by side so you can kind of see the spec features between the two. Both products are actually fairly similar in size between the two. The BM54 was designed and developed for the automotive market, so it goes through our automotive class of testing. The DF40 was really developed for our industrial and consumer side of the business, and so it doesn't go through that level of testing. So there's a little bit of difference in capabilities. The DF40 is a very well-established family that's been around for a while, so adding the floating connector on one side was certainly a benefit from a stack height capability and selection options. The BM54 was developed independently, and as a result, it is fairly new overall in the market space, but it does take off some of the key capabilities it learns from many of our microboard to boards, and that's hence why it's in that BM category of products and not like the DF40 class of products. The big key feature, then I'll show a little highlight in a little bit, is that two-point contact, which you find in the BM54. That's not found in the DF40F. That two-point contact really speaks to that automotive class of products that we see in the market. So it's a great product family. So let's first talk about the size of the connector. We're doing a quick comparison here between us and one of our competitors. You can see a significant reduction in overall space on the PC board for the same capability. This connector was designed to fit in tight spaces. Think of all the technology and electronics that are in your vehicles these days. There's more and more technology all the time, and so they require a lot more capabilities on the connector side of the industry. And connectors, traditionally were a challenge in that market, and Hirose has really stepped up with the performance capabilities. We are heavily used in that market, by the way. It's a significant portion of our business. So when we talk about automotive class of products, it's certainly a strong point for our company. The other thing I want to point out while I'm talking about automotive class, and we probably should wait until the application, but I'm going to cover it right now anyways, is industrial robotics customers in like autonomous robotics. They've been asking about a little bit more often about these automotive type class products. So that's certainly part of the reason why we look at this stuff. We say, well, do you really need the space savings? Well, some of those autonomous robotic devices, a lot of technology packed in a tiny space, and as a result, they do need that space savings capabilities. This is a product that is under development, and we are adding, over the course of time, we'll be adding additional stack heights and pin counts to the product family as time goes on. Look at our marketing release materials as they come out. If you're not following us on LinkedIn, make sure you click that to follow us on LinkedIn so you get our marketing materials there. Obviously, the emails that we send out, lots of content. Scott's marketing team has constant materials going out to let people know, and hopefully that will allow for you to see these new variations. Expect something new within this family being added about every 6 months over the next couple of years. I've seen some of the preliminaries, and they do have a schedule going all the way out into the middle of next year on new variations coming out. So be aware of that. Keep an eye on that in the marketing materials. Floating connectors were originally developed for folks that are dealing with 2 or more connectors on a single PC board connecting to one other PC board. The big issue that you run into with multiple connectors on a PC board is that the placement tolerance of a connector can be a real challenge. If the connectors are off by just a little bit, it can result in the one connector applying force against another connector, which could cause them to break in a shock environment or shock and vibration environment down the road. So it works fine when it leaves the factory, but then somebody drops the system, and because they're at the absolute max range and it's pushing on it, suddenly one contact fails on the connector, and that results in a failure in the electronics. Floating connectors will absorb that misalignment or that tolerance stack-up issue that you find on multi-board to board connector applications. The other benefit we see in floating design is when during the assembly process, especially as devices get smaller, small misalignments in, say, housings or boards that are screwed into a device, those small misalignments can make it difficult to assemble these connectors together. With a floating connector, it absorbs that tolerance, so it's smooth as it goes together. We've seen customers talk about how they're trying to make these two halves of their equipment, and it's like really firm, and it's hard to put them together. And that can often be associated with an alignment-related issue. So, so I see you put a note in there that somebody's got a hand up.
Jen, I believe it was Jen, had a hand up there.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was my mistake. Sorry about that. No worries.
I
Well,
thought we
hello,
had an
anyway.
early question. But
I
you know,
know,
that's
no problem, Jack.
it's a great reminder, though. If you do have a question throughout the presentation, Scott and Sang and myself, we do monitor the chat box. And honestly, if you put a question in there, sometimes I'll see it and I'll even talk about it while I'm in a section or on a slide. So feel free to put questions right in the chat box, and we do have a Q&A at the very end. So that was a great opportunity to remind on that process. But yeah, so if you have two different shells coming together, it certainly makes that process of manufacturing easier for folks because the two halves of the connector come together smoothly, and you don't have any issues with that alignment. All right, floating range. I talked about this briefly at the very opening, but 0.4 millimeters, plus or minus 0.4 millimeters in the X and Y. And then let me see if I can get to I think my next slide here has another picture here. The other dimension I wanted to point out here is the mating length. People have asked me, during the last session I did on this, people asked about the Z direction. The connector does not have float in the Z direction, but what it does have is an effective mating length. And on the current released version, it's 0.3 millimeters on the current version that's out there. So effective mating length, 0.3 millimeters. In the future, with some of the taller stack heights, which are not released yet, we are going to extend it to 0.4 on those taller stack heights because, well, they're taller. So you might need a little bit more Z height. But the current product that's being released is at 0.3 millimeters in the design. You can see in this picture here as well the two-point contact design. Think of that shock and vibration. The connector moves to the left, it moves to the right. There's still a point of contact in either direction that captures the mating portion of the contact, ensures a solid, secure connection long term. Looking at some of those specification details here, and I mentioned that automotive class, 125 C temperature range, on the plus side, minus 55 on the minus side. This is done over 1,000 cycles. Now, I'm not talking mating cycles, I'm talking temperature cycles. We're doing temperature cycles on this connector at 1,000 cycles. That means you're taking it from one extreme of the heat range to the opposite extreme of the heat range. And this means that depending on the customer's application environment, they don't have to worry about thermal cycling affecting the connector. This is something that Hirose is really good at on our products, and we've studied this stuff in detail. And there are a lot of folks out there that may claim a higher temperature on products. Without that temperature cycle testing, you can't promise it long term. So that's a big advantage of having that 1,000 cycles in there. They also have dry heat testing as well in there, and you can see other specifications. There are more specifications on the spec sheet that's available on our website. So feel free to check that out if you're looking for all the little details in the types of products that we have. Scott, it is our first quiz question time. All right. What is the effective mating length of the BM54F 3 millimeter stack height version? Go ahead and answer those poll questions. All right. Looks like we got a bunch of answers already. Super excited about that. Let's go ahead and keep going and talking about applications. Automotive is certainly the one that we highlight with the BM54F. And as I mentioned earlier, it is targeted at that automotive market. But I want to take this moment to talk about the pieces of equipment that you see this in. You're going to see this in camera systems, LiDARs and radars. That is a primary market for this. And there's a technological reasons for that. And that's because this connector does support MIPI video transmission. And MIPI video is not an easy standard to pass. And this connector can do that, and that's why it is used in these camera devices. But bear in mind, camera devices are also found in other markets. Medical customers use it, right? They use camera machine vision type of technology, but often in a smaller scale. They might be looking for a small product in those situations. We also see this in industrial robotics. Remember I mentioned the autonomous robots? That's certainly a possibility here as well, because those use LiDAR, radar, and camera vision systems. And then in general, industrial applications, you do see machine vision used across the board in technology, in production, and in robotics. So those are great markets to be looking at and presenting this technology to as far as customers go. Here's a great example of an installation application from a standpoint for a camera. And you can see here the connector goes on the inside, and it certainly provides a mating between a couple of PC boards in the device. Devices, say, have an image sensor in the middle. Usually that uplinks via MIPI. They then convert it to whatever they transmit out of the connector, whether it's out of the system, whether it's USB or the IX that Sang's going to be presenting in a little bit, might be on the outside, but between the imager board and the rest of the technology board, they often have a board-to-board connector, nice tight space. Things are difficult to align in such tight spaces, so hence the floating feature of the BM54 is an awesome choice for those applications. I kind of already mentioned these application examples, but just to reiterate, medical equipment, great place for this. Camera systems or video systems, definitely a great market space for this. Portable gaming devices are subject to drop. So BM54 is great in a drop test because that connector can deal with that motion that you may see internally on the device. This connector certainly can deal with that because of the rugged automotive grade. Obviously, automotive applications, computers, think of more the industrial computer market, maybe looking for something like this, especially if it's a portable device. All right, that brings us to our next question. What is the operating temperature range for the BM54F? Give it a moment here to get a bunch of answers in there.
We'll have to get some Jeopardy music for the future to kind of
I
fill
know,
up that
huh?
space.
I'm giving them a break from my voice. That's probably a good thing.
I can do the mid Jeopardy music for you, Scott. Dun, 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 dun.
Excellent.
Let's get a few more votes in there. I see some comments in the text box. Some folks having trouble with their voting. One thing I'll mention: when you log in with Teams, if you're not logging in on a Teams account that has that's not registered to an email address, that will actually cause the Teams thing to block polling. So make sure that your Teams account is logged in on your computer. That can cause trouble with polling, especially depending on policies for pop-ups. Some web-based systems block pop-ups. All right, I'll keep going here. All right, everybody always asks about competitive information, and I'll be honest with you, many times competitive information is something we haven't really presented on these meetings too much, and based on some feedback and some conversations we had, we thought we'd share a little bit of that competitive information with you. There are a couple of major players in here. Hirose is probably one of the bigger ones you hear about, but you'll notice looking at the dimensional size of the connector, Hirose was the one that we compared the physical size to in the earlier slide. That 5.8 millimeter width that they have and 3.8 for us were just significantly smaller in size. From a floating standpoint, we're at the top of the category in floating. The DF40 is also put in here, so you got a nice side-by-side comparison, including that as well. And then I'll show you on other stack heights that we're coming out with in the future. We'll also hit all of those key categories. And again, that temperature range is another big one for capabilities. 2-point contact is unique to Hirose. You don't typically see that. That style of contact is something that Hirose developed a very long time ago and has used and made improvements in over the years. It certainly helped the handheld communication device market quite a bit and dealing with drop testing. So that's a definitely benefit with the Hirose design within this product family. So this is a great product to choose in those applications. All right, let's hit our next product. This is an MPI. This is actually an additional MPI to an existing family. So many of you might be familiar with the FH75M. This product has, the FH75 series. The FH75M is an addition to that, but it's an MPI launch. It's significant enough of a change that we wanted to make sure we highlighted it and announced that out to you. Now we offer the FH75 family, which was originally just 0.5 millimeter pitch. We now offer a 0.4 millimeter pitch design, and that's really the big key feature change here. The FH75 is a ruggedized automotive class of flex connector. Some customers look at flex connectors and they go, boy, I would not want to use flex connectors in rugged environments, and they're concerned about actuators. Well, when we take a look at the specifications on this thing, we are doing a lot of the same testing. I should say, since it is an automotive, severe automotive requirements, we are doing this product testing in relation to our automotive class of products. So this is durable. It is rugged. And we'll get into some of the key features in a little bit, but I just want to point out that temperature range is very wide, -55 plus 125 on this product series. And you can see doing that same, many cycles, 1,000 cycles on this product, and looking at the dry heat and the cold temperature and capabilities in those realms. When you think of automotive, these are the types of specifications we are seeing out there. Now, looking across comparison to some of our other products in this family, I got here the FH75 and the FH75M side by side. You can see the difference in the pitch there. That's certainly one of the key things. Both of those have a 2-point contact design. Again, 2-point contact you certainly do see in those rugged type applications where there's a need for it. And these are both a actuator style connector, so it's a flip lock. And you'll notice in here I have the FH63, which is one of our products we present so many times in our training. That's the one action series. This is a standard flip lock. It is a front flip style connector, and we'll show you in one of the future pictures cool things about this. But what I want to point out right on this slide here is the mounting side of it. FH75 was PC board compliant compatible with the FH52K series. Bear in mind, the FH75M is 0.4 pitch, so it is not mounting compatible with a 0.5 pitch device, such as the FH52K. So if you look at it and said, oh, FH75 was compatible on the board with the FH52, well, that's true, but the M version at 0.4 millimeter is not. My cursor to work here. There it goes. Awesome. Here's a closer picture of that 2-point contact design. There are a couple of things that this gives you. First of all, 2 points of contact is better than 1. As the flex comes in, you have 2 points where maybe a dust could get to 1 potentially in the application. It's not going to get to both of them. That's really the key thing here. It also, 2 points of contact just have a better, I'll say, connection point. I know it's silly, but it has a better connection point to the flex. More points of contact is always better in that. I also want to take a little bit closer look in a second. We'll dive a little deeper into the actuator on this. But first, before we do that, we get another question. So Scott, question number 3. The addition of FH75M version added what new feature to the FH75 family? A few more go in there. Hoping to see a few more responses here. All right, so we'll go ahead and keep moving on. So actuator slip prevention design. So actuators are always a challenge when you're talking to customers about flex connectors. Some folks have had really bad experiences with actuators, and Hirose, I can confidently say chances are if they're having a bad experience, it probably wasn't with a Hirose connector. Hirose invented the actuator originally, and we do have some skills in this area that exceed the capabilities of our competitors, one of which is the way that our actuator is attached on the inside. The actuator stays in place properly and makes a nice clean pivot, doesn't have a problem with it coming off or breaking. That's a big advantage of our connectors. The other thing on this series, the connector actually has a very distinct feel to it. As you close it, it does feel like it clicks or locks into place. You know, actuators technically don't have a lock, but this connector does have a click feel to it as you close it, and it does prevent it from accidentally opening on the inside. Flex connectors are really sometimes struggle with that, and Hirose is very good about making sure our actuators stay closed when you want them to be closed. Well, you can see some key design aspects to the product that allows for that. Another big thing here is on the side catch. Side catches provide significantly more retention force, and that's one of the big advantages of them. But not all side catch systems are equal to each other. This connector has a very large post on it that allows you to get a very secure pull. There's lots of material there to pull against, which means you're less likely to have a failure. Another nice thing about this connector is the actuator does flip very wide open, 110-degree rotation angle, which means it's easy to put the flex into the connector when you go to do the assembly process. Speaking of retention force, we're talking north of 50 newtons. This means that they got excellent retention force in those rugged industrial environments or places where you might see drop being occurred or something may pull on it. We do have excellent north of 50 newtons retention force on this connector family. The last thing on this, talking about these tabs is the visual inspection system. You know, we were talking about cameras earlier, and cameras are big in the market, especially in manufacturing. They use machine vision systems to determine whether things are done right. This connector, they can do a visual inspection to look at the corner here and identify whether the flex was fully inserted. I will tell you though, if somebody does not put the flex in all the way, and the tab is in the way, can be in the way, when they go to close the actuator, they're going to feel that. So if the tab is like halfway in and not all the way in, they're going to feel that when they go in. That's one nice thing about having that nice wide open door. The thing goes in, it hooks. You can, before you even close the actuator, you're going to know, because you give it a little tug, or even at that point, you're going to feel that it's in there and locked onto that post on the corner. All right, Scott, we have our next question coming out here. You go ahead and post that one. True or false? FH75 M40 position with side tab supports over 60 newtons of retention force. Right. It's good to see lots of answers rolling in. Going to move on to the application examples here. We kind of touched on a little bit. This was developed for the industrial market and automotive market type areas, industrial customers, but you can use it in medical. Typically what you're going to be looking for is devices that have some kind of display, or in the case of camera systems, you do often see flex used in camera applications, especially if it's not like a packaged up type device. You'll see flex used in these applications as well. Again, handling the ruggedness that folks might be looking at that type of environment. But if you see a display, chances are there's some flex connectivity in those devices. I was just doing a teardown review of a product just this past week, and myself and actually Sang and I think it was Sang and I, or it was Norel and I can't remember who. Sorry, Sang, if it was you, or either you or Norel. We tore down a device, a desktop console device, like a conference room device, and there was over 20 flex connectors on the inside of it. So just because it doesn't look super big on the outside doesn't mean there's not lots of connector opportunity on the inside, especially with flex devices. So Do bear that in mind when you're working with stuff. That look for those displays, then dig in a little bit deeper. You may be surprised how many, and it may not just be used for the display. There are other things that we've seen. I have one customer using Flex for the audio connections. So just because it's not a display doesn't mean there isn't an opportunity there. Do look for that. All right, that is the end of this presentation. Sang is going to present on the IX series next. Appreciate everybody's time.
All right, thank you, Dave. Great stuff as always. So let me share my screen here. All right. Oops. Go for. All right, well, howdy everyone. Thank you for attending our session today. My name is Sang Lam. I'm the FAE for the South Central U.S. covering the Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Arkansas regions. Today we are going over a product refresh of the IX Industrial Series. Scott had mentioned earlier from the beginning of this session, the TM61P, which Dave did an awesome product review on that. I think that has been recorded, and so please review that. It works great with this IX series. So this connector was developed as the next-gen Ethernet connector for the industrial market and as an RJ45 replacement. So the agenda today is pretty straightforward. We're just going to go back in time real quickly, a slide or so, touching on the RJ45. And then we'll get into the product refresh with some key features and benefits of the IX, and also what kind of configurations and product offerings are available. And then we'll finish with a few application examples and a success story. So the RJ45 has been around for a long, long time and has remained the de facto interface for twisted pair Ethernet applications. As mentioned in the previous training, the RJ stands for registered jack. It was developed by Bell Labs in the early 1970s as a standard for telephone connections in the U.S. The actual name of the RJ45 is 8P8C, which means 8 position, 8 electrical contacts. This confusion nowadays is that people refer to any RJ type of connection as an RJ45 when in fact that's technically isn't. So after its adoption, there was rapid development, and by the mid-1990s, Cat5 was introduced. This was dual rated at 10 and 100 megabits per second with 100 megahertz bandwidth. That finally you can send video, phone, and data signals up to 100 meters without any amplification. So moving fast forward to present day, devices are getting smaller and smaller and are more connected than ever before. The motivation behind the development of the IX was to create something compact and rugged that can be standardized. It is important to note that the IX started off as an 8-pin connector, but now primarily as a 10-pin part. The extra pins are for custom industrial applications that don't really require or use Ethernet. Or the IX can also be used in place of a 9-position D-sub. It was officially standardized in 2019 by the IEC. As you can see here, some of the key features include high-density mounting with the smaller devices and space constraints becoming more prevalent nowadays. The IX with its smaller size are great solutions for customers struggling with limited space. Another feature is the IX has a strong latching and vibration resistance, so there's no more broken latches or weak retention like we have with the RJ. The IX also has high-speed transmission capabilities, Cat6A, supporting up to 10 gigabits per second. Although the RJ45 can support Cat6A, it has never been designed to handle that level of performance. Another great feature of the IX is shielding. As speeds increase, electromagnetic and RF interferences has become a concern and an issue. But with the IX, the customer can have the best of both worlds, both high speeds with signal integrity. Finally, the IX has flexible termination options It's available in both solder and IDC. We'll go over that later. And also its ease of PCB assembly with through-hole reflow mounting option. These features, first off, from a size standpoint, the iX is about 75% smaller than the RJ45. What that translates to is savings for the customer. The 10 millimeter mounting pitch with a fixed linear length, you can fit up to 6 iXs as opposed to the 3 RJ45. So the rule of thumb here is 2X. Mechanically, there are 3 features that I like to point out here that makes the iX unique. First off, the two through-hole back legs here are in close proximity to the SMT leads, which are here. As you can see, the 2 holes are about 90 degrees to these leads, and these leads are on the exterior of the shell. And also it's a wider backing here. So this allows the connector to better resist torsional or rotational forces, making it harder to twist off. Secondly, there are 2 other through-hole legs in the kind of like towards the edge of the board that are really close to the plug mating area. So being in proximity like this actually adds a lot of retention strength of the receptacle to the board. So there'll be, I mean, this connector, the receptacle is not going anywhere. Okay. The third feature is the positive lock design. There's 2 lock pins on the top and bottom of the plug here. This gives the mated condition a very strong retention force in the mated direction. We have test reports showing that the mated withdrawal force of the plug is above 90 newtons, and the breaking off of the locking latch requires above, of course, above 250 newtons. In addition, there's also a spring and claw that prevents rattling and damage to the contacts. One of the most common problems of the RJ45 is the latch breaking off. The customer won't have that problem with the iX. Moving to the performance side, the iX supports stable, high transmission data up to 10 gigabits per second with 4 pairs. At 500 megahertz bandwidth, the decibels are easily within the Cat A specifications for the near and far in crosstalk. This is plenty of speed for the industrial and medical equipment markets, which typically requires about 1 to 5 gigabits per second. So you can't have great performance to turn around and throw it all away with EMI issues. There are a lot of noise in electronics nowadays. Interferences from one device to another is a big challenge, and customers are always on the lookout for ways to mitigate this issue. The iX has a full 360-degree overlapping shield design with a very low inductance path to ground. The signal contacts are completely covered by the receptacle to reduce noise. And in addition, the shell also comes into contact with the receptacle ground spring for further noise reduction. On the power side, the iX is designed to handle up to PoE++. There are 4 pins of the iX that can support 3 amps of current and 6 pins that can support 1.5 amps. And with a 50-volt rating, that works well out to be well over the 90-watt minimum for the power sourcing equipment and power devices requirements. On the other hand, the RJ45 is only rated to up to PoE+. So applications such as cameras and infrared or night detection typically use power over Ethernet. Okay, so moving to the manufacturability side, the iX has through-hole reflow capabilities. So what this means is that the receptacle can be processed similar to an SMT process. So as you can see here, let's go through these steps quickly here. See the PCB has pads and through holes. So in step 2, you apply the solder paste. And then step 3, you place the connector, the receptacle, of course, vertically. And there's a little pick and place area for the automation at the top of the receptacle here. and then you simply heat that up, reflow it, and that's it. So there is no need of a second soldering step, like wave soldering or hand soldering, which saves the customer a lot of time and money. So aside from the through-hole reflow process, another manufacturability feature of the IX is that no split pairs are required in the terminations of the IX. The split pair requirement for the RJ45 connectors makes it a challenge to manufacture and produce. The IX does not have that requirement, making the wire terminations much simpler and faster. There's hand tool available and is relatively inexpensive. This leads us to the first quiz question. Scott, please post that. I think. What are the primary advantages of the IX Industrial over the standard RJ45? Give folks a few seconds there. A few more responses. All right, we'll move on. Had difficulty here. Okay, so is our IX product lineup. We have the straight plug, the up and down straight angle plugs, and the inline jack. We have the upright receptacles, right angle, and the vertical receptacles. There are also different types of terminations and the keying options for the various plugs, and also receptacles down here. Here, this slide shows the different keying variations. So keying helps to prevent plugging a connector into the wrong port. There are two available right now, A and B, and the C is still in development, but slated for release the fourth quarter of this year. So product options. This slide shows the solder termination for the IX. Applicable wire gauges are from 22 to 28. Please pay special attention to the outer diameter here, as you don't want to the cable to protrude from the plug. And I want to mention here also that we do have videos available online on our YouTube channel showing the termination, the IDC and solder terminations. So please do check that out. So this slide shows the IDC. The IDC stands for actually insulation displacement crimping. And there are three types of colors, transparent, yellow, and blue, depending on the wire, the cable size you are looking for, using. Also, there's a hand tool for this. We do have a loaner program, a free loaner program, so where we can loan out the tool for prototypes and quick turnarounds. So another really cool IX product option is the inline jack or receptacle. This can be used as a panel mount. Cutout guides are available in the IX catalog. This product is very beneficial as customers do not need to run a PCB up to the panel. They can just use the inline jack and run the cable to wherever their board is. Okay, so here are some application examples where the IX can be utilized. When you're looking for opportunities, please keep in mind the I/O ports for network communications, control and display devices, and machine vision cameras. In fact, the IX connector is standardized for the machine vision market. So please keep an eye out for those opportunities. Also, a few other applications not listed here are servo motors, manufacturing equipment, and robotic arms. So before going on to our success story, there is the last quiz question. What are the applicable wire gauge ranges for the soldering and IDC termination options, respectively? Give folks a few minutes here. All right, let's go on to our success story. So to wrap it up, Siemens Germany was looking for a compact, robust, and a manufacturable Ethernet cabling solution for their Cinemex S210 servo drive system. Of course, they started off with the RJ45 first, but found that it did not meet their needs. So they contacted Hirose and sampled some IX connectors. After some extensive testing, they not only approved it, they loved it, so much so that they came back and told us 3 reasons why. First, the compact parallel mounting of the IX actually contributed to the size reduction of their product. They love the unique shell design for the shock and vibe resistance, and also the IX has the high mating cycles, which we didn't cover in the talk, but for the extra durability. So they really love that. And finally, the manufacturability of it, of course. The IX can easily be assembled with a small number of parts, thereby improving their production costs greatly and increase their production efficiency. Not only did management love it, but the operators as well. And that's all I got. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Sang. So we ran just a hair long today. So thanks everyone for the patience. I'll open it up here quickly for questions before we break away. Did anyone have any additional questions before we wrap up today's session?